Hey guys, today we're going to be taking a look at a really cool product that I've been waiting for several weeks. This is a modular mount system from a company called Monstertech. They're out of Germany, and what this does is allow you to custom mount your throttles, your joysticks, keyboards, mouse pads, whatever you want, either directly to your desk or to any of the popular gaming chairs out there with the standardized mount systems from the armrest to the frame. Now, it's not an out-of-the-box thing. Every one of these pieces is handmade. There is a several-week wait time from the time you order to the time you get it. Mine was delayed even a couple of weeks further because I had a problem with the order when it came in. One of the adapter plates was the wrong size for the chair. They had the wrong info on the site. They've since corrected it, and we just exchanged parts. But again, it's coming from Germany, made on demand. What we have are a combination of aluminum and steel parts, and there are more parts to it. These are just the main ones. These have completely adjustable slide rails. There are other pieces that can connect to this. They have cable ties, they have locking rings, all kinds of stuff. But the gist of it is, we disconnect the armrest from the chair. This plate goes underneath the stock mount. So underneath the chair are 3 bolts. This is what connects to that. This goes right underneath where the stock armrest is, and then these up tubes connect to it, and then another piece connects out to here, and that's where you have custom mounting plates for whatever you're going to be using it for. This one is specific to my Warthog joystick. The Warthog, it's exciting, has this big stock plate because it's made for putting on your desk or screwing down. Well, it comes off, and in its place goes this. So this gives you a custom mount. You can also swivel it, and it will mount to a piece here. So then you have vertical height adjustment, and what it allows you to do is in your flight games have really realistic placement of your flight controls. So it'll end up being somewhere right about here. Perfect. This will move with the chair. I don't have to worry about the orientation. This is especially important when you play in VR because you can't see any of your physical parts. You can't see the keyboard or the mouse, and you have to know exactly where your joystick is and throttle and the 50, 60, 80 different buttons or more that you have to memorize and control by touch. So having this locked down in a very comfortable position, my arms on the armrest, this will be able to go absolutely anywhere. Or if you don't need it on your chair, they have slightly less expensive mounts that drill and mount into your desk itself. So instead of having this plate here, which attaches to your chair, you have a different mount that clamps or drills onto the desk, and then a similar tube system that will come out, and you can mount your pieces just like that wherever you want. Again, totally customizable. Difference there being your chair has to be pretty much locked down and in the same position. Otherwise, you're moving relative to where your controls are on the desk. I didn't want that. I wanted them on the chair. But I also didn't want this permanently mounted to the chair. It's not comfortable to have this sitting here if you're not using it. So I also opted for their quick release kit. There are more parts to this, but these are the same type of quick connect levers that you get in photography, for example, for light stands or umbrella adapters or tripod legs. They are a quarter turn quick connect. You have a spring-loaded system, so you just have to twist it to lock or unlock, and then you can put this handle in any position once you do so it's out of the way. This will allow the whole assembly to pop on and off, and you can set it down and put it wherever when you're not using it in a matter of a couple seconds. No tools required. So that should be really cool. Anyway, I'm going to get into the install here. It's pretty simple. We flip the chair over. We're going to take out the armrest. We're going to add this bracket. And the one thing, I've already been through this step, one thing I wish they did give you are longer mount bolts. Because this is a very thick plate, solid aluminum plate. And the bolts they give you are the same length bolts that came out of my chair. So I'm missing, quarter inch or so of that bolt. So just one little legal point there. Now, one drawback to the whole process, to the whole company, is their shipping costs. The product cost actually isn't bad at all. You're talking a couple $100 for all of this, all decked out, or less. This is pretty much the most expensive option you can get. Shipping cost was over $70. That means they're just using a Joe Schmo shipping account. That would be like me shipping something to somebody overseas. Most companies have a commercial account with much better rates than that. So bear in mind your shipping cost is going to be about a third the cost of the transaction. So it is a significant addition once you add up exactly what you want. But I've researched the heck out of this, and it is the only game in town that gives you this kind of quality. These parts are flawless. And I have no doubt once it's mounted, it's going to feel like the chair was made for it. Let's get it on. So down here in the middle of the install, made a pit stop, went to the hardware store and got myself some longer bolts. What you want to use are M8 1¼ by 40s. That makes up the difference for the new mounting plate. So there you can see the new bracket on, and what we're doing is replacing the 3 bolts there. So basically we're just taking the bolts out. There are also washers on the top side, or 1 per bolt of the stock bracket. So you can see the length of that bolt really gets eaten up quickly. You've got a lock washer, a standard washer, the new bracket, the stock bracket, and another washer. So there we have the brackets on, and I think you can immediately see another suggestion I have for the company. These brackets need to be anodized black like the rest of their parts, especially for people like me that get the quick release. This is what the chair looks like without anything attached. I mean, it's okay, but your eye is drawn to it. If they were black, they would completely blend right in. For the price that they're charging for these products, there's no reason that shouldn't be a small step added to their production run. For that matter, these brackets that mount to the chair, there are only 2 of them. There are 2 different sizes, and you pick the one depending on your chair model. That's actually what held up this order. They had my model under the wrong heading. So I got brackets that were too small. But there's no reason they can't machine a whole stack of both sizes, send them out for anodizing, and have them ready to ship, rather than have to wait for these to be machined onesie-twosie. This isn't a brand new company. They've been around a couple years now, so just something they need to do. So here's my next suggestion for the company. This is the quick release kit. So they give you the 2 quick release handles. This is an adapter plate, I guess, that goes in the bottom of the vertical tube to replace just bolting on standard bolts. And we've got a bearing and washer set for each bolt, some kind of plastic washer here. I'm assuming something goes like that. And no instructions. The card they give is labeled their swivel adapter, which is another option they have where you get 1 bolt and 1 quick release handle, so the whole thing can pivot to let you get in and out of the chair. But the quick release gives you 2 handles, so it can be removed. And this is the entirety of the instruction manual. Does absolutely no good. So I'm going to hop on their website, although I don't remember seeing something. I think they had a company video where they kind of went through it, but it, again, was not an instruction video on how to install it. So I'm just hoping I can pick up some tips here, because I really have no idea the order of what goes where. Okay, so absolutely no instructions on the website, but they do have some close-up pictures. And it looks like all these extraneous washers and bushings and everything are only if you want to use the swivel function, which I don't. So I just bolted directly into the bottom here. The plate just pushed up in, and then these again are the quick swivels. So it's just a quick half turn or so, and it slides forward out of the slots. And then you can position these anywhere out of the way. Bada bing, bada boom. So now I just have to get the little horizontal piece on here, and that's vertically set depending on where you want your device. They also have extra height options. They also have this whole thing as a stand. So if you don't want to mount to your desk or your chair, you can have a standalone unit with room for everything: joystick, throttle, mouse pad, keyboard, whatever you want to do. I guess first I will get this stock plate off the bottom of my flight stick and mount it to the new adapter plate, and then I can see what height I want this riser at. And we have a bunch of fasteners for that, kind of like IKEA. You've got these guys here, and then they go into the horizontal piece, and you cinch it down wherever you want it, and a whole bunch of separate fasteners for that. Let's figure that out. The instructions for this, by the way, are almost as bad. They do have a one-page document on the website, but it's exactly like IKEA. It's just, a couple arrows, just a bigger version of that. So not a whole lot of help. In fact, here it is right here. This is it. This is all the instructions you get. Should be good enough, though. Got the joystick side, or the flight stick side, done, and I adjusted it for height by sitting in the chair and putting it loosely on, and all the way up is a perfect height for me. If you do need a height extension, they have those available. And of course, if you have a shorter torso than me, your armrest may not be up so high, and you may not need it all the way up. Somewhere in the middle might be just fine. So assembly was very simple once I actually figured out how to do it. No instructions anywhere, no help. I found their support forum, and there were people complaining about the same issues here, and they said, new instructions are coming. Well, here's how you do it. So these little clips here, you just push them in. There's a spring ball, and they just slide up and down. They provide the threads. So you take this guy, and you put it in the horizontal piece there, just like basically IKEA. The flat part goes towards the riser, and that provides a spot for these long bolts to go in and screw in to these here. So another tip, leave them very loose when you're adjusting for height. This anodizing is freaking paper thin. You can see that I already scratched up the sides here. You can't see it unless you're down here looking, but just from gently sliding this up and down to find the height. So make sure it's very loose and be very ginger when you do that initial slide. And putting the stuff on the top is pretty similar. We have more of those thread clips. And then I've got the joystick mounted to the adapter plate, and I had that loose until I figured out exactly how I wanted it setting for the twist, so it falls naturally in my hand. And then that will mount just like that with 2 bolts down into the clips that I haven't put in here yet. And I'll tell you what, this is becoming a very annoying trend for the price I paid for this. Another production problem, and I found another person on the forum that was just complaining about the same thing. So yeah, wobble there, these screws are cinched down. They're the same size screws as the other ones here. Difference is the plate thickness is different. The plate here for the flight stick is just ever so slightly thicker than the plate that they made for the throttle. And that is just enough where this is cinched down, and they're tapered, so you can't cinch them down anymore. I mean, they are locked in. Now, the guy in the forum said he stuck a washer underneath to take up the gap. The problem with doing that is this plate really needs to sit flat for proper support. If I would have put a washer under there, it would only have a contact point at the front edge of this piece here. And I don't know how that would affect the engineering, but what I'm going to do is take a Dremel and take one thread off each of these screws so that everything is cinched down in the right place. Again, something you shouldn't need to do, period. Obviously, they're not test fitting and not doing their research. Now, they claimed on the forum for the other guy it was probably a packing error. Well, if that's the case, here's 2 in a row from 2 different people. I think it's a simple engineering error, and they are probably using the wrong thickness plate for the Warthog throttle, because this is noticeably thinner than the plate for the flight stick side. And there we go. cut the screws down to a fit length. Now it's solid as a rock, just like this side here. Now for comfort and correct fit, and I'll show you guys in a second when I get everything set up, I found that the perfect position for the throttle side is all the way back on the mounting plate, and that allows me just a perfectly natural grip, perfect height. My arm is resting on the armrest and falls right into place. You can adjust the swivel, you can adjust forward and back, up and down. You can get this to fit exactly where you want it. And actually sitting here, I'm going to rotate it just slightly clockwise. I mean, like 2 degrees. I can feel that my wrist has a little kink in it. So I want it like this, and it's sitting like that. And totally easy to do, 4 screws. Now over here, because the Warthog, oh man, this thing is heavy. I was really surprised at how solid this mounts, because it is so heavy. This throttle alone is about 15 pounds, maybe more. Anyway, it's got switches back down here, so I wanted it mounted all the way forward. If I were to mount it back, I would have to hit these switches like under the armrest. But here, again, totally natural. Arm is resting, palm on the throttle, totally natural control. I've got full access to switches, especially important in VR. Boom, there we go. So now I'm just gonna bolt this down with the 4 bolts, nuts, and washers, and I'll show you guys how it looks. Now the only thing left open is cable management. I have a hidden USB switch panel right here mounted under my desk, and that controls power to the flight stick, the throttle, my pedals, and my desk lighting. So usually I had these up on the desk and I had the cables permanently mounted up out of the way, but obviously I don't want to do that here. So I'll just figure something out just to keep them out of the way. But I didn't purposely get the clips that they have available because I knew my cables were not going to go back to my chair. That would eat up too much length, and they're not going to be permanently mounted. So not a big deal. So much like the joystick, to mount the throttle to the plate, you just have to take off the stock rubber feet plate. And it's a little different, whereas when you take the plate off the joystick, it's just a plain joystick. There's still a plate here. This is the bottom of the unit itself. Don't take that off. If you do accidentally take it off, make sure that you realign the little wire under here, because that is the ground, and there's a bunch of magnets here that work with the throttle position stuck to the bottom of this plate. So this one stays in place, this one comes off. Otherwise you don't have enough length in the screws they give you, so you do need to remove this plate. And there we go. So I have to say, very impressed with the overall product quality. They definitely have some things to improve, but once you get it assembled, this stuff is rock solid. There is no wiggle in this whatsoever. It's like they are a solid part of the chair. I've got plenty of room for all my controls. Now, if you wanted more room here, you could slide your armrest back. Mine is forward a few notches, but this is perfect for me. And of course, I've got tons of space for the joystick. That can go forward another 3 inches if I wanted to. Perfect setup. You can adjust it any which way you want. Like I said, you can go to the desk, or they've got the stand. So if you don't have the ability or need to mount to anything and you just want something you can move out of the way. I don't really have a space in the room for that. I would love that. I would love to have the dedicated chair and the rail and the pedal mounts and all that, but I use the room for VR and my cigar stuff and things like that, and I didn't want to have that just taking up a chunk of room. This is perfect for me. And like I said, when you're done with it, it's just a couple spins. Oops, I got it caught. You have to kind of do them in sequence because they hit each other. And the whole thing slides out, so you're in and out in just a couple seconds. So all I have to do is store this. That's easy. So I hope this helps somebody if you're interested in the mounts, and especially what it looks like with the Warthog setup. I haven't seen too many people do this. I saw a couple videos on YouTube, And man, they just glossed over everything. They just basically said how awesome it was. They didn't show any of these problems. But this is real life. This is what you get as of late April 2019. So hopefully they improve, but I highly recommend it, even though, yes, I think it's very overpriced for what it is. I mean, the machining they're doing, most of their time and expense is definitely in R&D, coming up with all the dimensions to mount all the different devices and making these plates. There's at least a little machining done, like in the screw holes for the bevels. I would suspect these are laser cut. So, I mean, that's easy. It's just a little bit of time, a little bit of money. These are all stock bar. These are extruded that they don't make. They're buying from somewhere and just cutting to length. They have a couple injection molded plastic parts. I'm sure these are custom for them, and they're buying these. They're not making these in-house. These are stock parts for other industries. These, I'm sure, are stock parts to go along with these bars. So you're paying a lot for what you're getting. But here's the big but. There's no other choice. There is nobody else on the planet right now making something that does what this does at this level of quality. That's all there is to it. So if you want this kind of setup and you want it top quality, highly recommend it. If you have the money, it's worth the expense, at least in my opinion. That's it. See you guys next time.